Hello, everyone. I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm breaking down our next matchup for UFC 326. In this one, we have Gaston Bolaños taking on Jeong Yeong Lee. So this is going to be interesting in two aspects. One, this is going to be at featherweight for at least the UFC. His UFC career, Bolaños has been a career bantamweight, so he's now moving up to featherweight for, in his mind, greener pastures and probably show that he is still a UFC caliber athlete. So it'll be interesting because whenever a fighter moves up in weight, especially one who relies heavily on striking, it could change the dynamics in the weight change. And add in the fact that he's taken on someone who I think more or less has somewhat of a well-rounded game in Jeong Yeong Lee. That becomes a very interesting stylistic chess match, even if these two aren't particularly the highest level at featherweight. Plus, this is actually going to be short notice. It was originally supposed to be Gaston Bolaños versus Zombie Jr. In Jeong Yeong Lee. Or sorry. Ju Sang Yu. So Lee is going to be replacing his fellow countryman in this fight in a matchup that I think could have the potential to be pretty fun, given how both guys fight. But looking at the athletes real quick, for Lee, he's currently 11-3 as a professional, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. In the UFC, he's currently 2-2, who having won a close decision over Yi Zha, which I think has aged pretty well. I think Yi Zha is actually a really good fighter. And then beat Blake Builder by decision, but now on a 2-fight skid, getting outgunned and KO'd by Hyder and Mill, and then most recently losing a decision to Daniel Santos. As for Gaston Bolaños, he's currently 8-5 as a professional, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Now for him in the UFC, he's also 2-2, winning a decision against Aaron Phillips, got brutally TKO'd by Marcus McGee. Then in his last win, he beat Cortavius Romeus, who about over a year ago, but I don't think Romeus is UFC level and not even in the UFC anymore. So I don't know how well that win has aged. And then most recently got submitted by Quang Lee last May. So both of these guys have had their moments where they've beaten opposition that doesn't really seem to be of UFC caliber, except I would say for Yi Zha. While both have lost to somewhat of a higher level of opposition. So they're kind of, I wouldn't say either of them is middle of the pack. I say they're a little lower. But I think whoever wins this one will show that they still have UFC caliber skills, is the best way I could put it. Or at the very least, still prove that they are a UFC caliber athlete. But with that being said, let's get down to the breakdown. Starting with Gaston Bolaños. He's a very clean striker. That's probably the best skill he has in his MMA game. He has his kickboxing background shows he throws sharp combinations, good posture, good balance, clean mechanics, and when he's flowing, he looks smooth. But there is something missing for me when I watch him fight in wins and or losses, to be honest. It's hard to pinpoint because sometimes it feels like timing, right? Like against Quang Lee, he showed good striking, but he got hurt in that fight and then choked unconscious. Sometimes it might be his durability, but then again, like Marcus McGee is a very good combination striker, so losing to him is not really a shame. And getting out kickboxed by McGee's again not a shame for Bolaños, but I feel like there's just something missing from his game, and maybe it's because he's not super well rounded. Even when he fought Cortavius Romeus, he was able to handle the grappling department and even beat Romeus in certain aspects of the grappling, but he did get controlled for a good portion of that fight. It's just hard to pin down exactly for me anyway, what's missing from Bolaños' game. And now, he's like I said, he's primarily a striker. That's his A game. On the ground, he's not much of a submission threat. He's not a strong offensive wrestler. He has decent takedown defense, but he's not the type to shut opponents down completely in that sense. At bantamweight, his technical edge could carry him in certain matchups. At featherweight, I think the margin shrinks for him because if he can keep this fight purely technical and striking range, he absolutely has a chance. But he can't afford to be second best in exchanges at this weight class just because he's going to be dealing with harder hitters. Now for Jeong Yeong Lee's case, for Lee, he's also a strong striker. He throws good combinations. He understands range well. his timing is pretty solid. And he doesn't just throw for, the sake of throwing. He throws in combinations and builds to the power shot. But what separates Lee here, I think, is his versatility. I think he can grapple much more in this fight than what Bolaños is going to do. Now, he's not a pure wrestler, but he understands when to level change, force clinch exchanges to disrupt rhythm. And so for Lee, he's shown moments where strong offensive fighters can overwhelm him, like Hyder and Mill overwhelmed him pretty quickly. So he's not flawless. And if someone can push a high pace with clean striking, he can get put on the back foot. But if Lee is the one dictating the pace and mixing phases, he's much more effective. And against a primarily striking based opponent moving up in a weight, that could possibly be an advantage for him. Now, obviously, this being at featherweight is one of the key factors in this fight. As since Bolaños is moving up, means he's no longer he's like no longer at the naturally sized man in the cage. Because relatively speaking, for his build with bantamweight, he was built, for bantamweight more or less. He wasn't small for the division, he wasn't big for the division. He seemed like the right type because you look at just his stats, right? At 5'7" with a 69-inch reach, he was built for bantamweight. So moving up at featherweight against someone who's 5'10" with a 73.5-inch reach, that's definitely going to be a problem for him. Because at featherweight, punches hit harder, clinches feel heavier, and grappling exchanges drain more energy. And if this turns into a physically demanding fight, right, clinch, cage, pressure, level changes, I think that favors Lee. Now, if this stays technical kickboxing in open space, I think Bolaños is going to look very good. But at a higher weight class, pure striking advantages are harder to maintain unless you're clearly superior in that aspect. Now, just looking at the stylistic clash, I think this likely plays out on the feet as well. Bolaños will try to establish range and stay technical, while Lee will likely test that range early and then begin mixing in pressure and level changes. So if Lee can make this mixed phased fight, striking into clinch, into wrestling, and that will disrupt Bolaños' rhythm. And rhythm is everything for a technical striker. So if Lee keeps it varied and forces adjustments, he's likely winning minutes. And if this stays purely kickboxing at range, and he lets Bolaños settle, that's where the fight can get dangerous, as Bolaños could pick him apart on the feet. But for my final assessment, while I think Bolaños does have a path, if he keeps his standing, maintains distance, and out times Lee, like for example, throws his jab at a higher clip, and while at the same time as a counter, he can win a technical decision, I think. But I think Lee's ability to mix in the grappling combined with the featherweight size dynamic gives him more tools, more ways to win rounds, and more ways to disrupt the rhythm. In over 3 rounds, versatility usually beats specialization, or, the well-rounded guy usually beats the specialist, when the specialist, especially if that one is moving up. So, for my official prediction, I got to go with Jeong Yeong Lee, and I got to go with him via decision. I think he'll likely have a good, well-rounded performance, mixing striking and grappling, controlling the tempo, and winning minutes. Now, if he gets a finish, that would be impressive. And, I don't think a submission is out of the realm of possibility for him, but I think a decision is more likely. So once again, I'm picking Jeong Yeong Lee. I'm going to pick him via decision in this fight. But with that being said, that's been my breakdown of this matchup. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below on who you think is going to win. But until then, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. I thank you all for listening. And remember, stay calm, stay respectful, and enjoy the violence. I'll see y'all next time.